your beginning AutoCAD book, chapter 29. Beginning AutoCAD book, chapter 29. The next week and the following week will be in here in advance. All right, let's talk about blocks. A block is a group of objects that have been converted into one object. A symbol such as a transistor, bathroom fixture, window, screw, or T is a typical application for the block command. First, a block must be created, then it can be inserted into the drawing. An inserted block uses less file space than a set of objects copied. So, by that definition, basically what you got to do is have something already drawn. Okay? Once your object is drawn, then you can actually create that object and make it into a block. Once it is created as a block, you just keep inserting that block in every time you need it. Okay? The thing with blocks are, when you create a block, that block is stored inside that drawing only. Okay? So when you create the block, it's inside that drawing only. You can't be in another drawing and grab it. It's strictly inside that drawing. But once you group, let's say you have a couple square circles and a couple lines and all, and you group it into a block. Once you group it into that block, it's reading it as one thing only. So that's why it's saying your file size goes down, because no longer is it reading maybe 6 or 7 different things, it's only reading one thing. Okay? Now, the thing about blocks are, once you insert them, don't grab it and copy it somewhere else. If you need it again, you reinsert it again. Okay? You'll understand a little bit more why I'm saying that when we get in the advanced book, because when we get into tables where you can do parts lists and stuff like that, it can actually go out and read. If you insert the block each time you need it, it can actually go out and read how many times that block is out there. And it can keep up with a running data of what you've done on the drawing. So if you need to do a quick cost list, let's say every block you created, like let's say you created a chair block. Each chair is 200 bucks. You've inserted that chair 10 times in your drawing. Well, AutoCAD can go in, see how many times you inserted that block, and multiply times the data that you've given. So there's stuff like that is why you really don't want to just keep copying blocks. You want to insert it every time you need it. So let's go ahead and start out. I'm going to draw a little something here. Let's see, I'm going to draw a little circle. I'm going to put a little line through it, just like they have in the book. Okay? Keyboard people, if you want to get to the block creator, you just hit B spacebar on the keyboard. B spacebar. Okay? That gets you up to the block definition box. Okay? If you're not a keyboard person, you go to Insert tab, Block. Okay? And let's see, Insert Block Definition and Create Block. All right, insert the block definition panel, then insert block. First thing you want to do is type in the name of it. Let's just call it, this is one of our test materials, so I'm going to call it test. All right. Your base point. You see right here it says base point. You can either say let 0, 0 be your base point, or you can actually go out and select the base point. All you got to do is hit right here, pick point. I'm going to say let the center, or let's say this right here. Let's say the end point is our base point. So I click on it, and the block definition box pops back up. Now it says, what's your objects? Well, click right here to select them. Select everything you want to convert into the block. Once you're done, you right click, and it pops back up. Now you see right here that 3 different things: retain, convert to block, delete. Convert to block is going to happen either way. If you select delete, what happens once it creates the block, your original disappears. Okay? And that's generally what I do. When I create a block, because I don't want them all just sitting there on my screen, once I go to create it, I hit the delete button on here, so that once I've created this, once I'm done, it disappears from the screen. But like I said, even though it's disappeared from your screen, it's still inside your drawing. You just have to reinsert it. Why do I do that? One, like I just said, if I wanted to keep that running tally of how many I have on there, it keeps the running tally by how many times you inserted that block. So if you don't insert this first one, it's not going to read the first one. So that's why I delete my first block. Or delete my blocks when I create it. You see up here, they show a preview of what your block looks like. Alright. Once I'm done, that's basically all I need to hit. Hit OK. You see my block disappears. Now, there's one thing I do need to tell you, and we're going to back up to do it. When you go to create a block, you want to make sure that everything, well, generally what I like to do is I like to make sure everything is already on its correct layer. It's set the way I need it. Okay? You don't have to, because there is a block editing option that I'm going to show you that you can go back in and edit the block. I like to go ahead and make sure everything's on that layer. Okay? Another thing is, I'm going to do that block creation. So I'm going to say I want everything. We're going to put everything on layer 1. But that's not all you have to do. Before you create this block, before you make it as a block, you also need to make sure you come up here and set it to the layer that it's supposed to be on. Why is this important? Because once you create the block definition, it creates it with that layer. So if you go and turn that layer off in the future, temperature once your blocks are created, and you didn't set it to this when you created it, it won't turn it off. Because it'll actually be referring to whatever layer was on at the current time you created. So you have to make sure that your layers, the layer that you want it on, is set before you create the block. So now we hit block, pick point or test, pick point, select value. Okay. Alright, there it is. It's made. So how do I reinsert it? Well, keyboard people, you hit I space bar. You hit I space bar. Or you come up here and hit Insert tab, Block, Panel, Insert. Insertion point. If you're inserting little bitty blocks, then what I generally like to do is clicking this box right here, specify on screen. That means it allows me to put it wherever I want to put it. Okay? Scale. I generally leave this just at 1:1 because any block you have created generally is going to come in at 1:1. Of course, angle I'll leave at 0, and the rest of it you can leave alone. Now, what if we had multiple blocks? What if we had, I'm going to go ahead and create another one real quick. I want this one on the 0 layer. Set it back to the 0 layer. New block. Call this one test 2. If you have multiple blocks inside your drawing, when you go to hit insert, if you hit this down arrow right here, you can see it has all the blocks that you've created inside this drawing and inside that down arrow. Okay? So you just pick which one you want. Right now I'm just going to have test 1. Specify on screen, okay. Now watch, I can put it wherever I selected that base point at. So let's say I want it right there. Alright, let's say I want to bring another block in. Let's say I want to put it on the end of this. And you see how now it comes in, okay? But when I clicked on this, what do you notice about the layer? Did it come in on the correct layer? No, because when I inserted it in, I didn't have it set to the layer, but that's easily changeable now. Once they're created, all you have to do is click on it and put it on its correct layer. But you got to remember to do that, because if not, I'm going to leave this on the 0 layer. If not, watch what happens. Okay? You see it went away that way, right? When we come back and turn it on, let's turn this one off. Oh, they went in and changed it. Okay, good. They made some updates. This no longer, used to, when you turn off the 0 layer, if this was on the 0 layer, it would actually turn this one off too, which would mess you up, because then you didn't have your symbols there. But anyway, I like to have these set on whatever layer it's actually involved with. That's just me. I'm anal. I like everything organized. So if you know you're going to insert these, I would come up here, put it on the layer, and then insert. You see how quick it can be? I'm not copying them, I'm reinserting them. But once you insert it one time, all you have to do is hit the space bar, And look, it just keeps bringing it back up. So you can keep inserting it wherever you need it to be. Okay? Now, if I went into a table, it could actually go and see how many times I've created this block. All right, now what if you had to go in and edit a block? BE is block edit. BE is block edit. Or you go to the Insert tab, Block Definition, Block Editor. Insert tab, Block Definition panel, Block Editor. You see it comes up with all the blocks that you currently have in your drawing. Click on one of them, double click Test. It's pretty hard to see, isn't it? I'm going to go to my options. OP Enter. OP Enter. Display tab, colors, block editor, background, I want black. And turn this grid on. Now I can see it. Okay, let's say these weren't supposed to come all the way across, they're actually supposed to go to the center. I fixed it. I come in here and hit Close Block Editor. It's going to ask me, do I want to save the changes? Yes. Look what it did. Changing on every one of them. Okay? That's the great thing about blocks. I can't tell you how many times you do a symbol. And then let's say you got to use that same symbol 100 times throughout the drawing. Well, then all of a sudden somebody comes back and changes the size of what you're supposed to be using. And then you got to go, if you didn't put it as a block, now you got to go and do it on every single one of them. Well, this way you can change it one time, and bam, it's changing on everything that's associated with that block. Now, up to this point, you've been creating your drawings, doing stuff, erasing, putting layers in there, blah, 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 blah. If you look at all your file sizes, they're probably pretty big. Okay? If you look on page 29-9, because you're going to want to do this once we start getting into creating all these blocks, dimension styles, and all that kind of stuff. It's called Purge Unwanted and Unused Blocks. When I'm completely done with the drawing, I purge everything. That means all layers, line types that are not being used, text styles that are not being used, blocks that are not being used, etc., etc. If you hit PU on the keyboard, and that's the only way you can get to us, so you have to remember that. PU on the keyboard. You notice this purge block pops up. Now, anything that has a plus beside it means you have multiple items of that. For instance, I have multiple dimension styles. Or it means you have, it doesn't really mean you have multiple, it means you have unused. Okay? You have unused members in that category. Dimension style, we're not using the annotative dimension, so you can purge it. Under multi-leader styles, we're not using the annotative, you can purge it. Under text styles, we're not using the annotative, so you can purge it. Let's say I erase this test 2. I don't need it anymore. If I go back to purge PU, you can notice now a plus is next to blocks. Test 2 is now an unused block. So if you want to go ahead, you're completely done with your drawing, you're about to turn it in, I usually go ahead and, at that opportunity, and clean it up. Okay, that's when I go in and use the purge. Let's see if I can find one on I usually try to keep one or two on this. Here we go. Let's see. Find something there. That used to be descriptive geometry. That used to be what y'all had to take. What y'all see there? I would give y'all that image. Y'all would have to come up with those images. Yeah. That's the class I used to have to take. It's actually pretty easy. Let's just go with this one. Okay. Let's look at the file size real quick. It's 57 kilobytes. Okay. If I go in, open this drawing, and I purge it, which is not going to get rid of a whole lot, if anything. No. It's a big drawing. Oh well. Let's see if this will work. Okay, this one will work. All right. What was this one called? Lecture. All right, lecture right here shows is 98 kilobytes. If I come in here and hit purge, PU, I've got to open it up first. PU. See right here it says confirm each item to be purged. The only time you leave that checked is if you're still in the middle of drawing and you want to go ahead and purge some things out. You would leave that checked so that every time it goes to try to delete something, it'll ask you, are you sure you want to delete this? Are you sure you want to delete that? In this case, I'm completely done. I'm going to uncheck that. And I want it just to purge everything that's in there. You come down here and hit purge all. You hit close. You hit quick save. And then get out of it. Before it was 98. Now look how big the size is. 41. So it brought it down over half of the file size.
So it's remembering all the stuff you're doing, when you're drawing or something that you say before?
Well, yes. Everything, like every layer you've created, every line type you've inserted, every color you have used, it has all that saved in your file. So what it does is when you go and purge it, it gets rid of every line type you have used, every dimension style you created and no longer using. No, it deletes nothing that you actually have on the face itself. Only stuff that's not being used, like blocks, dimension styles, text styles. You'll figure out real quick. If you're out in the field and you're having to do architectural, structural, civil drawings, you do a lot of block insertion. Okay? And what you do a lot of times is you insert one block, explode it, edit it to what is needed in that situation, and then you turn around and reblock it inside your drawing. Why would you do that? Because there's a lot of times there's standard blocks that you can use and just modify little bitty things here and there to make it into the situation you need. That's the way we do it in the field. It's the fastest way to do it. We don't recreate stuff every time. We use stuff we've already created. But once you insert those blocks and you explode it, and you do what you need to, and you reblock it, you got all this unused data stashed into your file that you've got to get rid of to keep it. Because believe me, when you get out in the industry, it's mandatory that you purge your drawings because they have a server that has to have all these drawings on there, and you got to keep the file size down as much as possible. That way, the server can handle it. So you see this one brought down for over a half. Now think back from all the drawings you've done in principles and intermediate now. There's probably quite a few of them that you've got unused layers in, unused dimension styles in, and all that. So now imagine if you go back now and purge each one of those, what kind of file space you can save on your jump drive. Now, part of what I do with purge is there's a second little that the book don't teach you, and a lot of people doesn't teach you. There's a second little command that I use at the exact same time I use purge. It's called audit, A-U-D-I-T. What the audit is, it basically goes in your drawing and looks for little programmed errors. That while you were working on it, your drawing may have got a little error in because of AutoCAD. It goes in, looks for those, fixes it, and then you can purge it. Like for example, I'll open that same one. I would do audit first, and audit is AU. Okay, there is no icon for it, it's just AU. And I do this all the time before I do purge. So I do AU, it says, fix any errors detected. Yes, fix them all. Why? Spacebar. In this case, it found 0 errors. That's great. Now I'll purge. Nothing left to purge and close. When you get into big drawings where you've been inserting all this massive amount of information and bringing this in from that and creating all these blocks, eventually there's a few errors that somehow your drawing will get. I've had it where it's found like 19 errors and fixed them all. And when I mean errors, I don't mean like one of your corners are not squared off or your circle's too big. This is actually AutoCAD programming errors. And if you can keep those programming errors out of your drawing by auditing it, that can help keep your drawing from shutting down without you wanting it to. Okay? Alright, the last thing I want to show you in this chapter. Remember the multi-leaders that you create? The multi-leader style that you got to go in and edit? In that style, sometimes, depending on what job you're in, sometimes you want a multi-leader style that doesn't just produce words, it can also produce symbols. What I mean by that, if you go into Home tab, Annotation panel, click on Annotation, and click multi-leader style. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it Symbol. You know I misspelled it. Symbol. You set up everything exactly the same how we've been doing this whole time. The only difference is you come here to content, instead of it being multi-leader type text, you go click block. You see it changes that whole little tab. Source block, where you can come in here and create it whatever you want. Triangle, hexagon, box, circle, slot, detail call out. Or you can go and actually find a block that you created inside this drawing, one of those blocks like we did a while ago, and you can actually attach one of those to it. Okay? But for this case, I'm just going to use a circle. When it says center extents, that basically means center the text wherever I want it inside the object. Okay? Color by layer 13, scale. Let's see. Oh, this is set up to architectural units. Your scale will just be 1. Okay, it's just 1. I hit OK. I'm going to set this one as current. Now watch, when I create a multi-leader, I'm going to put the text in. When I create my multi-leader, as you can see, the circle comes in on it. Look what it asks at the bottom. Enter your tag number. That basically just means enter whatever letter or number you want to go inside the circle. So let's say we're doing a parts list. You ever seen a parts list? It's just numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can use these arrows and go point at each piece and call out which part number it is. So let's say, for example, this is part number 3. We'll type in 3. Enter twice. It says specify leader arrowhead location. You can come in here and point where you want it. Oh, I'm sorry, I actually created a note. But you see, all you do is put a number in, hit enter, and there you go. You got a parts list. Okay? Well, I'm going to create one more because I want to show you something else. Let's say you point at one piece, and that piece put together has all 3 of these parts in it. Okay? Then you can point at that one part, and if you turn the page 29-14, you can collect all these balloon parts or all these marks to one. You go to Home tab, or I'm sorry, the Home tab, right next to Leader under the Annotation panel, Select. You select the multi-leaders you want to collect, right click, and you got to select them in the order you want them to fall out too. Like I selected 2, 3, and 4. Whatever order you click them in is how the numbers are going to fall out. And then what you do is you just come up here, place it where you want it, and look. It collected all 3 of them together. I haven't used it a whole lot because I haven't done any kind of technical or machine part drawings that does a lot of parts lists. But I have used it for other things, just to show like modification drawings, or I just had a brain fart, but it's revisions. When you do revisions to drawings, part of the revision is to create a triangle with the number of the revision in it to state that this is a revision. So I've used these leaders to do that instead of having to create, the triangles individually. I just use the multi-leader style because it can set up to where, you put your scale factor in, it sets up to whatever the scale factor is. It adjusts everything for you. So I like to use this for my revisions and stuff like that. All right, any questions? I'm sure you will once you start doing it. Your homework assignment. Look at 29-17. You will create each one of those symbols without the dimensions in text with it. I mean, I mean notes, not text. Because, look at the first one on the left-hand side at the top on 29-17. You see the one with the two circles and the F in it? The F will go in the block. But what I mean you don't have to do is you don't have to put in use text style or the dimensions like 8-inch diameter. That's just notes for you to help you create it. Okay? What you're going to do is create each and every one of these blocks. And as you create them, make sure you hit delete instead of converting the block. Hit delete on the text or the block creator. That way, after you create it, it deletes it off your page. That way, when you need it, you will insert it in each time. So you're going to do all these. You're going to have to read the top. You're not going to do all the directions. For example, you're not going to save this, or you can do the save as exercise 29B, that's fine. You don't have to do number 1. Follow all the directions up top except for number 1. Then what you're going to do is turn over to 2918, and you're going to draw that. Along with the dimensions. Follow all directions except for number 2 and number 6. All directions except 2 and number 6. Why? Because you will use our dimension style. You won't use theirs, you're going to use our dimension style. But you still want to make it look like what you see down here at the bottom. The only exception is where you see where it just says 20 with the foot mark. I want to see 20 foot -0. 2 foot -0. 1 foot -0. I want to see the -0 on the end. Then you're going to go over 29-19. You're going to follow all those directions. Then you're going to roll over to 29-20. you're going to follow all directions except for B under number 3. That should say type 0.5, not 0.25. That should be type 0.5, not 0.25. And then 29-21 finishes you up. This is what your final product is going to look like. Except you're going to use our title block. You can follow all 9, the first 9 steps. And for number 10, you just go save it as you're drawing and print it out how we've been printing on 8.5 by 11. Remember, you'll have to use, put those scales under each one of the viewports to label what the scale is for each viewport. But what this makes you do is this going to make you create blocks, and this is going to make you create or use that annotative text again for your dimensioning. Okay? So this is making you use annotative dimensioning again. The more you use that annotative dimensioning, the better you're going to get with it. And I promise you, for future classes, you're going to want to use it. Okay? Y'all are lucky this is a short-term class, because usually I make y'all do the next assignment right after that one too, but we won't do that. Okay? So, this will be due next week, next Monday. We only have 3 weeks left doing that. Actually, yeah, because the 3rd week after today is your final exam week. So, but next week we will lecture. Go ahead and figure on it. Okay, long lecture because we're kind of behind for some reason. So, we're going to probably cover 3 or 4 chapters next week. And then you're going to go ahead and get your final exam. Your final exam is going to be a 2-week project that you're going to have to do. Pretty lengthy. It's going to cover about 5 sheets. But you have 2 weeks to complete it. It's like a little mini project is what it is. It's a little different than principles. Principles was just make sure you have the basics down. This is more into now project phase. See, give you a little mini project to do. Okay? Everybody clear? Understand what they got to do? Get down to the nitty gritty. Okay? This is the first time I've ever taught intermediate over 9 weeks, and I've learned my lesson real quick. We got to start covering more stuff per week than what we've been doing.
I think they should make intermediate and beginning so you get a better grasp of it as semester long.
You want to go back to semester long?
Because this 9 week stuff, it's just eating my hands up.
Well, the only reason we did this is because if we don't, it puts people like you who started in the spring,
Yeah.
y'all are now a whole nother semester behind. So what it really did, well, what that does though, it makes you go a whole complete other year.
Yeah.
This way we get you done in May. If we didn't, you wouldn't be done until May the following May.
Well, that's what I was looking at, being done in 15, I didn't know it was gonna be so compacted and stuff. So, but that's all right, I got the books, what I don't get now, I can study over the summer if I'm laid up with the back surgery.
Believe me, y'all have enough, work in the next few semesters, y'all get it done. Because you don't learn it all in these two classes, you're gonna learn it continuously over all your other courses.
So, what I need to do is go read